lendlela nguqongqothwane igqirha lendlela nguqongqothwane igqirha lendlela nguqongqothwane sebeqabele gqithapha nguqongqothwane sebeqabele gqithapha nguqongqothwane kulomzi ngamaqabaqaba imbola kulomzi ngamaqabaqaba imbola kulomzi ngamaqabaqaba imbola kulomzi qabaqaba imbola kulomzi ngamaqabaqaba 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 imbola. King of kings, we kneel before your Father. I've been asking for peace in the rest of our country. Lord of lords, we kneel before your Father. I've been asking for peace in the rest of our country. Our Father, we are asking for peace in the world. Our Father, we are asking for peace in the world. Reveal yourself from heaven. Because we are directing to you. We are directing to you forever, Almighty. We are directing to you. We are directing to you forever, Almighty. Rise and set, rise and set. The sun rise and set forever, Almighty. Rise and set, rise and set. The sun rise and set forever, Almighty. Ndinethemba wanu nongesenbonile ukuthi lokhu kuzondana kwenu no ngekukwanisanda ngempela kwenu no faka izitha zenu phakathi kwenu bengenani mfowethu hlale phansi sikhulume bahlekwe izizwe ngezizwe noma lezizwe bengayindaba yethu ngeke bayiqede 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 ngeke White bag, get a white bag. You.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the official launch of the National Institute for Theoretical and Computational Sciences, a multidisciplinary and multi-themed research institute in South Africa. A special word of welcome, thanks to the Stellenbosch United Brothers. Now, I read somewhere that people say that when you learn music, it enhances your mathematical abilities and skills. So I am hoping that as I listen to music this morning, that I will become as the day unfolds. Of course, sense of, you're starting with 1 + 1. And then eventually you get to that point where you start solving differential equations, and then you start lifting your legs because then things just make sense. So welcome to this event. Obviously, we invited representation from the various universities. So if you are here, special. I did pick up a couple of faces. I saw the Vice-Chancellor of University of the Witwatersrand, Professor Zeblon Vilakazi, then also Professor George Ellis, who wrote a book with Stephen Hawking. Thanks for being here. And of course, I'm busy writing a book as well, Famous People Who Knew Me. So I am going to add to my book. Then from Venda, we have Chivasi together with Princess Mo. Special word of welcome to you. And then the consulate generals from the Republic of China, Zhao Hongzhao, from Italy, Giulio Mingaka. I do hope that I pronounced that. So welcome to all of you, and to the rest of you, of course. Great having you here. So we have a full program, a couple of speeches that we want to get through. Then we have some beautiful food for you to enjoy. And then obviously we have the which will happen later. For those of you in search of bath, out at the door that says exit, just down the steps, ladies to the left and the gents to the right. That is where you will find your bathrooms. So I'm not going to hold up the program. I'm going to invite the Rector and Vice-Chancellor of Stellenbosch University, Professor Deresh Ramjugernath. I always get his surname wrong, and he's going to forgive me for a couple of more times, and eventually he will teach me to pronounce it properly. He was born, he grew up, and today he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, the VC of Stellenbosch University.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gillian Arendse, for that introduction. I was born and now I'm here. Good morning, friends. Good morning, colleagues. It's absolutely fantastic to have you all of you with us at Stellenbosch University. I'm going to rely on Dr. Arendse's protocol so that I don't have to repeat all of the names. We've got some very, very distinguished guests amongst us this morning. So a very warm welcome to all of our distinguished guests. And we also got representation from the DGs and the deputy DGs, as well as a number of vice-chancellors and deputy vice-chancellors and former acting vice-chancellors. I saw Daya is also with us this morning. To all of our keynote speakers, colleagues, students, partners, friends, it is an absolute honor and a privilege to host you here at Stellenbosch and in Stellenbosch University for this very special occasion. At Stellenbosch University, we are very proud that the National Institute for Theoretical and Computational Sciences, or NITheCS, as it's known, has been chosen to be hubbed at our institution. This is not only a recognition that we believe of our academic strength as one of the 26 higher education institutions in the country, but also a collective commitment that we have as an institution together with our other university partners in terms of advancing science in South Africa and beyond. Now, at Stellenbosch University, we have a Vision 2040, and the work that is being through NITheCS and through this hub aligns with our Vision 2040, which is to be a leading research-intensive university, globally recognized for excellence, relevance, but importantly, I think what this NITheCS hub does, it exhibits emphasis on partnerships that truly can make a difference in society. And this is where the 26 universities coming together for an important initiative in science, technology, and innovation. It just sets an example as to what we can do together in collaboration and in partnership in science. Now, today's launch is about more than a new office space, and you'll see that office space that NITheCS has. It's a statement of intent. NITheCS represents a shared investment in scientific excellence, in building capacity for future generations, and ensuring inclusion across the theoretical and computational sciences. Now, one thing that I've been emphasizing at Stellenbosch University is that if we want to have the big breakthroughs in science and technology, it can only happen through a way of doing interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, transdisciplinary kind of workings. That is the way we need to start to look at the way we have an agenda for science. And NITheCS is a perfect example of how this can be undertaken. Not just this multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary working, but also about hopefully a transdisciplinary working and about a collaborative way in which our higher education institutions and science agencies can really start to have impact together. Now, we live in a world that seems to be getting more complicated by the day. And so these kind of complex challenges that the world faces requires us to think across boundaries, to think across borders in terms of the way we function and the way we work, of the kind of wicked problems that the world currently faces. This means that no single institution or no single discipline can afford to work in isolation. The days of working in silos is over and should be over. The strength of NITheCS lies in its collaborative spirit, in connecting disciplines, in connecting institutions, but importantly, in connecting people. It is truly pan-disciplinary, and importantly, I believe it's going to be nation building in terms of the work that it undertakes. Now, the establishment of NITheCS at Stellenbosch University positions South Africa at the forefront of global science. The hub is set to become a beacon of collaboration, a beacon of outreach, and a beacon of innovation. It will inspire new research directions, hopefully get more engagement from young scientists, and expand our networks both across the country, across the African continent, but importantly, globally. On behalf of Stellenbosch University, I want to express our full institutional support for the mission and the vision of NITheCS and for the leadership of Professor Francesco Petruccione. We are excited about the opportunities that this initiative will unlock, not just for our institution, but importantly for our universities in the country and for our country and the continent as a collective. So let me end by congratulating everyone who worked so hard to make this milestone possible. Your efforts have brought us to this new era, I believe, for science in South Africa, and Stellenbosch University looks forward to walking this journey with all of our partners that are with us on this exciting NITheCS journey, and to seeing the remarkable impact that NITheCS will achieve in the years ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Reminding us of the importance of synergy, celebrating diversity, and the need for us to work together to solve problems. As they say, we live in a VUCA world, right? Volatile, uncertain, what's it, complex and ambiguous. But the new word at the moment is Barney. Brittle, anxious, non-linear, and incomprehensible. That is the world in which we live, and that's the world in which you have to solve problems. I'm just going to change the program slightly. So if you guys can just remain seated, I'm going to bring you up after this because I'm aware that the DDG needs to run at 11 o'clock. So let me invite to the podium Mr. Imraan Patel, who is the Deputy Director General, Department of Science, Technology, and Innovation. So Deresh was born, he grew up. Imraan.
Thanks, Gillian. To everyone. I'm going to try to keep it brief. We always get invited to do keynote address, and I've been thinking hard another term. Those who inaugurate this presence. The closest I've come to is, kind of reinforcing the policy context. The keynote is residing in your heads. To be done in terms of the keynote. So before I go into why this is such a milestone celebration in the context of our policy context, let me first express the sincere regrets of both the Minister and the Director General who was asked to stand in for the Minister. Wednesdays, if people are aware, and maybe we should watch out for this. And so we're taking some matters to cabinet, and the colleagues are there. And it's actually about trying to grow the system. So hopefully they will be successful in their endeavors. But they bring you greetings, and hopefully there will be further opportunities for the Minister, which everyone is familiar with. But just for those who are not familiar, we have a new Director General who started on the 1st of June, Dr. Lungisi Tlele. Was from head of King. He's really was very keen. He was asking a lot of questions about NITheCS and where we're going to, and the kind of importance of this initiatives. So clearly there will be an opportunity to invite him back to look at what is being done in this space. So as I indicated, let me also observe the protocols. It's done very well by other colleagues, but just at the level of communities, let me thank the various leaders of our university system. Very strong, dynamic system, still has a lot of potential that's being unlocked on a daily basis. It's very interesting to see that space, always with wonder how the universities are evolving in this context. But I see Ponzo's just walked in, but colleagues who are responsible for parallel initiatives of the DSTI, our colleagues from NITheCS, Sadila, etc. Let me also welcome the members of the international community. I heard two specifically mentioned, China and Italy. You're welcome, and we look forward to strengthening this partnership. Both in instances in this context makes a lot of sense. And then also thanks to all of you for kind of attending this important event. And then lastly but not least, to really thank I think we do this too little, thank the DSTI colleagues who ultimately, people were saying, yeah, but it's kind of people who are your project managers. In this particular instance, I'd like to acknowledge Charles Makonoto, who's not here, Takalani, Namangani, Segrin, Woodley, and Tabo, who have led the charge in terms of positioning this as an important initiative. So to the kind of core messages that I want to leave, and this, you were saying it's an age of uncertainty, rapid changes, etc. And this applies to policy. So I will only reflect on current policy. And change, a lot of work is being happening, taking into account significant global developments. But in terms of current policy, our trajectory over the next decade is guided by two documents, the white paper on science, technology, and innovation, and the decadal plan on science, technology, and innovation. There's a lot of detail in that, but there's certain lift from there. And the forward of the decadal plan, there's an emphasis, whether it was the minister's forward or the deputy minister's forward or the DG's forward, on three issues. And for me, NITheCS has expressed these in the way it's operating in its work program. So I want to give thanks, but also to push that, to take that a bit forward, taking into account some new developments. So those three watchwords are transformation, inclusivity, and partnerships. Transformation, I won't deal with one that we're all familiar with, and we have to do a lot more in that regard, and that's the demographic transformation of our research core. It remains a challenge. We're looking at statistics. The NACI will be releasing the latest STI indicators, and there are some worrying trends. So we need to find ways of accelerating this. There are initiatives like the presidential PhD program, but all of our initiatives, whether it's NITheCS or SADILA or the research chairs, etc., are aiming to do that. The issue is one of scale. So what we have identified in terms of the demographic transformation is that we have a good set of instruments. What is required is to enhance those instruments. But with our existing instruments, which were the centers of excellence and research chairs in the main, we've added this third key institutional form, which is something called an institute. So NITheCS is in fact the first institute, although people talk about the Institute for Pandemic Preparedness as the first institute. This arrives before we finalize the policy document of the institute, but it demonstrates the characteristics of institutes. And I will refer to some of those characteristics here. So be that as it may, we really need to see a lot more. Just looking around this room, we need to do much better as a system on the demographic transformation, whether it's race, gender, people with disabilities, etc. But the transformation issue has been broadened out in terms of our own thinking around this, and it goes to the heart of knowledge production. The way in which knowledge is produced, in the wake of fees must fall and debates around decolonizing, open science, etc. So you may be aware that we hosted a very important transformation summit in 2 years back. And that transformation summit adopted a broad-based definition of transformation. And so here I'm very keen to hear these terminologies of multidisciplinary and transdisciplinary. I think inter and multidisciplinary, my own sense, being privileged to be part of global policy learning forums like the OECD, etc. We always undervalue what we've done in the country. We always say, actually, you've done much better than us. You don't have the same kind of constraints. So I think we've mastered, by and large, interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary. We need to do more of it, and there's obviously things that can be better. But I'm not too sure whether we've really done transdisciplinary research, which is essentially doing it with people, not just in the scientific community. I find that lots of people talk about multidisciplinary and equate that to transdisciplinary. But I was exposed to two new ideas, and I want to see how this unfolds. I'm not too sure what's in the academic literature around pan-disciplinary and undisciplinary. So we will be keeping a keen eye, because what you will be doing in this space will help us with our own policy work. How do we institutionalize some of these areas? We did a very good piece of work on transdisciplinary research that I think we need to take forward here. So it's beyond that. Transformation is also about the institutional architecture. We have a system that has not kept pace with the growth of developments in the technological space, and it's still unbalanced, and there's a big focus, and I was glad to see in NITheCS and in many of our projects the increasing participation of historically disadvantaged institutions and the new universities, etc. Those need to be built on. From the DSDI perspective, we're hoping to have a single view of what is happening in each of these universities. We know that there are things happening through different projects, but as a collective, we don't have a good sense of it. And then, so that's on transformation, some of the key that we're focusing on. The next is inclusivity. And in terms of inclusivity, one of the things that have emerged in the last 6 to 9 months, and it's linked to this issue that I will come back to later around partnerships, the need to ensure that the science system is understood. It's a hidden gem that not many people know about, and that's the honest truth. We continuously meet people and they say, wow, there's so much happening, we were not aware. And there's a lot more happening outside of the DSTI that we actually don't necessarily know about it. So what the minister has coined, and it's now a mantra that we use always, is the need to place science, technology, and innovation at the center of government, at the center of industry, at the center of education, and at the center of society. How this will unfold, we're busy doing the thinking around this, because the mantra is only as good as a mantra if it has some implementation backing. And this is key because we've been told, and I know I can share this, that in cabinet meetings, every item, the minister wants to say something, because he's saying everything that you come to cabinet with, whether it's new transport policy or whatever, has some element of science, technology, and innovation behind it. It's not only new technologies, but it's evidence-based decision-making, etc. So in terms of inclusivity, we need to use that mantra in our work. And my sense is that we are doing this in many of the initiatives. We need to make it more transparent. How are we placing science, technology, and innovation? I'm sure we're going to hear some of that. I've seen some of your reports around what you're doing in the climate change space, etc., which is very, very important. But in terms of inclusivity, and it's something that we learned from the SKA project, which I think we need to kind of adopt, and it's that concept of the social license to operate. How is it that we can maximize the kind of developmental benefits coming out of an institution like this? I don't know the format of this engagement, but we are building the various building blocks for this, whether it's Open Science Conference or Science Forum South Africa, etc. It's to open up to say that science is not for the elite, science is for everyone. I've been impressed at many of our events. Recently, where was I? And we had, it was at the Next Gen event that the NRF hosted, where we invited local schools at that stage to give people. And I know there's some exciting work being done to entice young people at school level to take on a science and technology career. So again, that's an important policy imperative for myself. And then finally, in terms of inclusivity, and it's linked to the transdisciplinary issue, is our continued commitment to open science. Many of you may have been involved in the development of an open science strategy. Obviously, the world has changed so much, we have to reflect in a very critical way around open science. I'm glad to say that we continue to be committed to the principles of open science, as close as possible, as open as necessary. And we need to find our own space in the open science era. But that is something that we think will stand our system in good stead, but we need to manage it carefully. And then finally, I want to just reflect on partnerships. And it was mentioned, I think, by Professor Deresh to talk about the partnerships. We want to be broad-based in our partnerships. And hopefully we will be doing a lot more as part of our policy work, interrogating this a bit more. We had recent engagements with the minister, each of the programs had to present, and we had to give a bit of a sense of what do we mean by partnerships, because there are partnerships of many, many different types. Some partnerships are contractual agreements, you're paying someone, etc. So what is the landscape of the partnerships that we have, and how can we maximize on these partnerships? So clearly NITheCS and others will provide a very good case study on how is it in partners. Let me raise some very specific partners, though, that's quite important. One is we have to be aware of the global context. what the center of gravity in terms of scientific endeavor is changing. We need to be aware of this. Is our system globally connected in a way that makes sense for us, or are we still kind of biased to historical legacies? Oops, sorry. Oh, did I switch my but the other is the private sector. Did I switch on the sound? Can I just see if I can sort out? I'm not so technically incompetent. All right, I think I've done it. But a particular area of emphasis, or two areas of emphasis in terms of partnerships, and one is linked to this issue of placing science, technology, and innovation at the center of government, industry, and society, and government. And that is the ensuring that other government are aware of the capabilities here, and we are developing. The only way we're going to increase funding is not to get more money on the DSDR budget, but to increase science and technology expenditure overall. We do an annual survey on this, and we begin to monitor and also engage with key departments to say, yeah, there's work being done on climate change. Can we build on this capability, or whatever else, health or languages in the case of arts and culture. We are making success, I must say. There's been a lot of interesting engagements within the cluster and cabinet, where other departments who are science intensive, but not only science intensive have done this. And then obviously it's the need to engage a lot more with the private sector. Again, broad-based, and not just the established large multinationals, they do offer benefits, but also with new emerging businesses, businesses on the continent, businesses throughout the world. Yeah. So we know that there are going to be likely many obstacles that we would need to deal with in this instance, how to structure mutually beneficial experience, etc. But I think there's no turning back. What we do is a strong partnership between government and industry in support of things like the Sustainable Development Goals. So, in summary, those areas, I still say, believe that putting it in the decadal plan and lifting it out, those three watchwords of transformation, inclusivity, and partnerships, does provide a clear policy, provides clear policy signals on where we need to go to. I know that I can't conclude by saying something about money, and this is a challenge. And we need to help us with this challenge. For me, the outlook is, it's challenging in the medium term, but I'm very confident of the medium to long term outlook for increasing science, technology, and innovation investment in the country. However, the danger with that is that we lose ground as the world is changing. So what is going to be crucial is for you to help us make the case for increasing financing. We're not publishing enough in the papers around this, in the general media. And so we need to be able to do this on the basis of the fact that we have a dynamic system. We're not trying to play in all spaces. We've made choices, and the system has, and NITheCS is a good example of this, is not trying to have small islands of excellence, but really to work towards larger scale impactful programs. And things like this, the Pandemic Institute, the many research infrastructures, etc., are demonstrating in a clear way that we are able to take public finance and use it in ways that really multiply the impacts. So we are working on it, and that's why I said we have cabinet, and we have another meeting with a fellow minister, and it's all about how is it that we can partner to increase the resourcing. So I look forward to celebrate with you when the resourcing comes in. Help us. We will do our part, but we need all of your assistance to demonstrate the strength of our system, and that this system is addressing the key societal challenges that we face as a country. Thank you. I need to leave, like they said, for a meeting at 12:30. So good luck, and Minister has downward appointed, it went right to TK, but in the able hands of TK, who will be officiating on behalf of the TSTI at the ribbon cutting. Please send photos so that the minister can see.
Thank you very much to the DDG of the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation. As you were talking, Imraan, I was thinking it reminded me of that Nelson Mandela quote, right? One that said, after climbing a hill, stop. Celebrate because you've come far, but understand that there's a lot more climbing that needs to happen. You would also pick up that if you look at the word NITheCS, they already have all three things there. N, network, I, inclusivity, and T, transformation. So they were way ahead of the game. But thank you for reminding them that there's still some work to be done. All right, so just to allow you to settle in, as you've been welcomed by the VC in terms of Stellenbosch as the hosting institution, you've heard from DSTI that they've got your back and they are supporting. Let's allow music to help this settle in. So I'm going to invite back the Stellenbosch United Brothers. We've got a little bit of a Lady Smith Black Boozer sound to guide us.
Uyapibuya, siyawiza, musu wemungothi ungabisawulala, bazawuhlela abantu, hlele khona zobuya, hlele khona zobuya. Uyapibuya, siyawiza, musu wemungothi ungabisawulala, bazawuhlela abantu, hlele khona zobuya, hlele khona zobuya. Shosholoza, kulezo ndaba simela siphume South Africa. Shosholoza, kulezo ndaba simela siphume South Africa. Wena uyabaleka, kulezo ndaba simela siphume South Africa. Wena uyabaleka, kulezo ndaba simela siphume South Africa. Iyo amu, amiyo amu, amiyo amu, amiyo amu, iyo amiyo, amiyo amu, amiyo amu, iyo amu, amiyo amu, amiyo amu. Amiyo amu, shosholoza, kulezo ndaba simela siphume South Africa. Wena uyabaleka, kulezo ndaba simela siphume South Africa. Antulanga, ugone ndani zayo. Antulanga, ukono memeza yo. Antulanga, ukoni ndani zayo. Antulanga, ukono memeza yo. Memeza izwi. Kantule kancane, ukhono memeza yo. Isithandwa sami siyandibiza. Kantule kancane, ukhono memeza yo. Shap. Kantule kancane, ukhono memezayo. Kantule kancane, kancane konomemesayo anthule kancane konomemesayo anthule kancane konomemesayo anthule kancane konomemesayo anthule 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 kancane konomemesayo 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 anthule 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 kancane konomemesayo anthule kancane konomemesayo.
All right, thanks again to the Stellenbosch United Brothers. They will be back later on. Even though we don't understand what they're singing, you can still feel it. Yeah? And you picked up that when the leader goes, the rest follows. He starts clapping, and all of you start clapping. So talking about leaders, you heard about the train. Let me call the leader of this train to the stage. Professor Francesco Petruccione, Director of NITheCS. He's going to share with us his BHAGs, his big, hairy, audacious goals. Ladies and gentlemen, the Director of NITheCS.
I'm not sure how to share the screen. Sorry. We went to the moon with much less technology, but I still don't know how to operate a data projector. There it is. Okay, so good afternoon, or is it, no, it's still morning. Good morning, everyone, distinguished guests. Please allow, and friends and colleagues, please allow me to assume that all protocols are observed as my predecessors have done. And today is, in fact, a big honor to be here in front of you to share the vision of NITheCS. You know, this is a journey that started long ago, and today is a little bit the culmination of a plan. Yeah? I wanted to add maybe one note to my CV that the program director didn't mention. Yeah? I was born, but I haven't grown up yet. So I'm still working on that. Yeah? Now I just need to know how to change the slides. Here we go. You know, today is really a little bit of a milestone, yeah? As I try to say, because it's not just about inaugurating an institute and maybe cutting a ribbon in front of wonderful new offices that you will see later, but it's about sharing and starting to implement a vision. Yeah. We are in the year in which we're celebrating quantum science and technology. Yeah? It's the UNESCO year of quantum science and technology. And this is because 100 years ago, people like Werner Heisenberg and Erwin Schrödinger came up with the fundamental equation that described the microscopic world. Yeah? And it took 100 years for this fundamental theory of physics to come up with technologies that have the potential of shaping our future. Yeah, just half a year ago, together with Dr. Zia Ismail, we managed to realize with our colleagues in China the longest and fastest quantum communication channel via satellite between South Africa and China. Yeah, joining the northern hemisphere with the southern hemisphere using quantum technologies. Yeah? And this is a little bit the spirit of what NITheCS wants to achieve. To combine foundational, theoretical, and computational and mathematical work with potential for technologies that might have an impact or will have an impact in our daily life one day. And following the example of quantum mechanics, sometimes it takes 100 years. Yeah? So we're not speaking about short, we are in for the long game. Yeah? You know, Albert Einstein, who we all know, claimed that imagination is more important than knowledge. Yeah? We are imagining a future in which, with the help of theoretical and computational science, we will be able to solve the problem that we face in this world of ours. Yeah? And, you know, another important figure who managed to put man on the moon, yeah, chose the operation, yeah, because it was hard, not because it was easy. Yeah? So the road ahead might have challenges, yeah, and it's good that we have these challenges because that would keep us awake. Yeah? The reason why theoretical and computational sciences are so important is because, quoting another Nobel Prize winner, Abdul Salam, who was also the founder of ICTP, the International Center for Theoretical Physics in Trieste, which is a little bit our big brother. Yeah, we have an MOU with them. Yeah. He claimed that scientific thought is the common heritage of mankind. Yeah, and we need to embrace this and make sure that Africa leads in developing and pursuing achievements in science and technology. Yeah, so this is really very, very relevant. Yeah. You know, what is NITheCS is a consortium, I will mention it later again, of all universities in the country and aims. And its role is really to empower our science community to do important things together. Yeah, NITheCS is not here to claim and be famous. Yeah, we want our community to be famous and claim successes. Yeah? And this spirit goes back many centuries. Yeah, and we want to implement it. Yeah. You know, other famous Nobel Prize winners, Ilya Prigozhin, who won the Nobel Prize, I think, in '77 for non-equilibrium statistical physics, and with whom I had the pleasure to spend some time during one of my postdoctoral periods, yeah, claimed that, you know, future is uncertain. We all know that, yeah. But uncertainty is what triggers creativity, yeah. You know, I'm Italian, and, you know, the Renaissance started after the pest. And it wasn't, well, few periods in history that were more uncertain than that. Yeah, we experienced here also our pandemics during our lifetime. Yeah, and that's the spirit that we want to embrace. So we really want to embrace uncertainty because uncertainty opens up possibilities. Yeah, and we need to grab them and use them for our purposes. Yeah, that is not easy. Yeah, it's hard. Marie Curie was full aware. She had a very tough life, but she won 2 Nobel Prizes. Huh? And it's probably the only person that had 2 Nobel Prizes in 2 different scientific disciplines. And there are a few people that have written science and peace. But science, physics, and chemistry, not many people achieved that. Yeah. So we are aware that it is not an easy journey, but, you know, we're confident that we will achieve the goals that we have. Yeah? And I was very proud that even Imraan mentioned the concept that I'm trying to sell, yeah, which is pandisciplinarity. Yeah? When I started thinking about how do we run NITheCS, in the official NRF jargon, we are a multi-team and multidiscipline institute. Yeah? because we bring together theoretical physics, mathematics, astrophysics, statistics, data science, quantitative finance, quantitative biology, bioinformatics, and earth and climate change modeling. Yeah? At the beginning, I thought, and Imraan mentioned it as well, we should be an undisciplinary institute. Yeah? But that doesn't sound too good because people confuse it with undisciplined. Yeah? And that's not that's not what we want to be. Yeah? So pandisciplinary is the way to go. And the basic idea of pandisciplinarity is that the challenges that we want to solve are the core of the institute. What discipline we need to solve them doesn't really matter. Yeah? Each discipline will have its own identities, own qualities, but the important thing is to solve challenges. Yeah? So the challenges are at the center. So we want really to solve and address important problems. I didn't invent it. Yeah? There are famous examples. Yeah? Probably the most famous ones are the Apollo program, yeah? That I mentioned before. To go to the moon didn't just require rocket engineers. Yeah? You had physicists, medical scientists to keep the astronaut alive, chemists, mathematicians, computer scientists. Yeah? The Human Genome Project is another such example. And in its logo, you see there is chemistry, biology, physics, ethics, informatics, and engineering. Yeah? Without all those disciplines, we still wouldn't know how our DNA looks like. Yeah? So it's really a collective effort. And these days, we have plenty of similar challenges. One of the more acute ones being climate change. Yeah? We won't all be able to address climate change if you don't put together physicists, chemists, biologists, and so on and so forth. Yeah? They're really challenges that no discipline and no individual on its own will be able to solve. Yeah? So the magic recipe of NITheCS is to work together. Yeah? We are a little bit like an orchestra. Yeah? Everyone plays his own instrument, but or a choir, I should say, yeah, in the context of today. Yeah? Everybody sings it's his own part, but the ensemble sounds then beautiful. Yeah? So thank you very much for that. Yeah, so that's the idea. I mentioned before NITheCS that we are a consortium of all universities in the country. And that is by design, yeah? Because we heard Imraan Patel saying we need to be inclusive and so on and so forth. And we can do it only if everybody is on board. Yeah? So by design, NITheCS involves all universities in the country. We are organized in 5 nodes. Yeah? The hub is in Stellenbosch. We have a node in the Western Cape, in Gauteng, in the Eastern Cape, and 2 nodes that are not provincial, across the Eastern Cape and the Free State and the northern provinces. Yeah? This was a constraint of NRF. Ideally, we would like to have 9 nodes, yeah? But we will work on that. Yeah? Importantly, we have already a network of 400 associates in the country, yeah? Distributed across the various disciplines. You see, NITheCS was born out of NITEP, which was the Theoretical Physics Institute. Yeah? But in the meantime, mathematicians are catching up. Probably soon we will have more mathematicians in the system than theoretical physicists. Other disciplines are also slowly coming on board, and we are working hard to increase their presence. Thank you very much. So I always do the mistake of drinking an espresso before I talk, and that's not a good idea. But anyway, so because by design, the only scientist that NITheCS employs is me. Yeah, I can't tell any associate what they have to do. So in order to come up with these 10 impactful research programs, we asked all associates to come up with ideas for research programs. We had around 50 such proposals. We invited all the investigators and associates to Stellenbosch. We locked them up in a room at CS on around 8 tables, and we told them, please, at the end of the day, come up with 8 impactful research programs. They came up with 10. Yeah, but for our first attempt, it was a very good approximation. So you see from quantitative analysis, quantum technology, fundamental aspects of understanding how our universe works, to functional materials, mathematical structures, an obligatory research program around machine learning and AI to promote, to increase scientific productivity, complexity in biological systems, gravity, astrophysics, and cosmology, mainly exploiting our geographical advantage that we have the SKA and highlights and other initiatives in the country. Earth system modeling and climate change modeling. We still don't have a proper Southern African climate change, and this is what our climate change wants to do. We have developed a very own climate change model, and of course, contributing to help it in Africa. All this doesn't happen. We live in a very connected world, and we are very strong partners, and we are working hard to develop this network of partners. I mentioned already CHPC, which is an institute funded mainly by UNESCO and really great. But that's actually the same. It was also more critical to the institute, but in the meantime, they also we have basically we have very strong partners in South Africa. You will hear after me the CHPC and South. We also engaged with quantum technology initiative, and we are part of research excellence with Aruba, the African University Association, and the Gateway with the European University. But essentially, our biggest resource are the people. And I'm very happy to see that there are several of them in the room that are not only young, but they're also talented and motivated. I see the sense to there's a village. That is great. That will become the leaders of tomorrow. All of this comes with big responsibility because we want to be impactful. We want to have our community, the SDI, to give some fun. And that will only happen if we show them that we can really solve the challenges, the problem that we that promise to solve. And we want to address as much as possible the famous SDG goals. So just to come to an end, I think I will use my time. We really want to build a community. And the challenge of NITheCS are not technical. The challenges of NITheCS are all human. It's just bringing together, changing the mindset, let people collaborate, reduce a little bit the ego component in what we do, and try to join forces to solve our challenges. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was the Director of NITheCS, Professor Francesco Petruccione. Of course, hopefully, like me, you picked up that he just added a couple of more letters in NITheCS. It's only me. NITheCS now is that through networks, inclusivity, and transformation, we empower communities to solve problems. All right, so we heard from the Director. Let's get some input from some of the partners he mentioned. Two of them, it's my privilege to invite to the podium Mr. Mervyn Christoffels from the National Integrated Cyber Infrastructure System. Mervyn, thank you for being here.
So just put it this way, you probably see on your program, Dr. Happy. From us. It's a real privilege for us to say capacity, so we can tackle significant challenges we face as a country. Climate change, health inequalities, food security, and the list goes on. in the transformation of the research landscape. This landscape has shifted from traditional analog practices to technology-assisted approaches, fundamentally changing the way research is conducted. Analog tools have been replaced by digital systems and research infrastructure, with modern computing services and information systems taking over from physical instruments like the microscope. If we were 20 years ago at the launch of NITheCS, we'd be standing in front of a lab with mandate like that of NITheCS, with the digital research infrastructure and expertise like that of the CHPC. So together, we bring research and training and building capacity to open opportunities to position South Africa as a meaningful contributor to large-scale science projects. Let me highlight just a few of the milestones from our journey together. Back in 2019, we hosted our first introductory programming summer school in the Drakensberg, 50 students. And from those humble beginnings in the Drakensberg, we essentially had the following model, that the Center for High Performance Computing would do the foundational training to students, and then the NITheCS would do the more specialized training. I mean, our approach focused on HPC infrastructure, fundamental Python and language training. And then COVID happened. And for those of you who remember COVID, I mean, we embraced online learning. And from that, we moved to what is now called a hybrid model. We essentially, have a collaborative approach to combining online sessions and in-person events, hosted by universities and hubs that are supported around South Africa. Thanks to this new approach, we have managed to then train over 800 students that are located at almost 50 institutions across Africa. And these students are taught how to kind of engage with programming and Python language. In addition to the International HPC Summer School, our collaboration has opened doors to a global network. A series of international training events started in 2010, and it's only focused on Europe and the US. But through our collaboration with NITheCS, we have managed to open up that to South Africa. And in 2023, we sent some students to the conference. Furthermore, in 2023, in collaboration with ICTP, we co-hosted an HPC event on sustainable development. And of course, not forgetting the ongoing collaboration at the CHPC National Conference seminar. And here's a plug, our conference is between the 1st and the 3rd of December at Central Circle for those who are interested. And so we continue to kind of explore frontier research topics like quantum computing, which they had a dedicated stream at a conference this year. So what is the value of this partnership? Well, it's a pipeline of talent that we've built. 50 students in our humble beginnings to 800 now. There's a world-class research infrastructure access that enables NITheCS researchers to tackle big scientific questions in astrophysics, climate science, and bioinformatics. And also, it's a global integration that ensures our students and researchers are part of the international network. So as NITheCS open these new premises, may every student who enters these doors leave with skill and confidence to shape South Africa's future, to contribute to science on a global scale. And on behalf of the CHPC and NITheCS, we extend our congratulations to NITheCS on this milestone. And we look forward to our strengthening collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mervyn. All right, we're going to invite another strategic partner. This is the South African Digital Language Resources, and representing them, Professor Langa Khumalo, to share a few words. Morning.
Goeiemorgen. Molweni. Oh, I greet you in the official languages of this institution. I am from the South African Center for Digital Language Resources, and we work with all the official languages of this country, 12 of them, to develop the infrastructure required for these languages to seamlessly interface with science, which is what this room is all about. And I want to start with observing all the protocols. As I iterated before, I do not want to name anyone, lest I forget very important people that are in this room. Now I have to struggle with making this thing move. Okay, I will do the traditional way of clicking. No, it's not even working. Yeah, it's supposed to be here. They do. Okay. Okay, perfect. Today we celebrate the expansion of our national science system, and I really want to heartily congratulate my friend Francesco for this milestone. It's a culmination of a lot of work that you have already shared with us, and Francesco was with us at SADILA at the Northwest University to celebrate the launch of our own infrastructure, SADILA, in 2024, in November last year. And I, for that, want to thank the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation for the continued funding of the national science system, and really leading that science system as we had from Imraan, and I see Sagrin is still in this room. Our key partnership with NITheCS is really around digital transformation and in the various areas of data science and digital literacies. SADILA, as part of its mandate, seeks to ensure a digital future for all the official languages. And we know that these languages are at their various levels of efficacy in terms of interfacing with technology and science. We aspire that there actually comes a time that we can competently use these languages in all forms and all spheres of society. But we have our work cut out. They are not at the same level of development, and the 9 of the 11 official languages, barring South African Sign Language, which we are also driving with a partnership from Stellenbosch University to develop a sign bank for SASL. We are actually working with the 9 under-resourced African languages. And in a paper that was published last year, you can actually see that most of these languages are the left behind. They do not have findable data sets that you can build any machine learning system or do any NLP work with. And that is what we are grappling with at SADILA. And I will share with you some of the things that we have done with some of the official languages. But we have only isiZulu as this by. The rest languages are not to be seen in the international scheme of things. The big winners are, of course, English, Spanish, German, Japanese, and French. But we want to build these language models so that we can actually make this language really usable, at least in education, and at most in all education spaces, from kindergarten to higher education. We do have resources that we have developed and deployed at SADILA, and we have language parsing, we have named entity recognition, parts of speech recognizers. We have corpora that we have developed for all the official languages, barring, as I've said, sign language, which we are driving with Stellenbosch, and we have a variety of text and technologies. All of that is course, with a lot of computational training, and we really need a lot of computational uptakes in the area of computational linguistics, because most computer engineers do not want to work with language people, and most language people fear for their lives technical folks, which makes it a very difficult thing to struggle. And so we are looking forward to a lot of digital literacy, a lot of computational training. We have a whole program on human capacity development in trying to have the computational affordances. We have a couple of programs that I want to share and highlight, and chose the SWIP program because the SWIP is a collaboration between SADILA, Wikipedia, and the Pan-South African Language Board, which is a body that actually looks after the official languages of this country. You will remember the saga. It's Pan-South that looks after the naming of everything in this country, whether that particular is appropriate and has been standardized or not. Of science and really making knowledge accessible in all languages for every speaker. We actually embarked on this SWIP project, and we picked out a language that was not in Wikipedia by the 10th of September in 2023. It's Ndebele, which is an official language in this country. At that time, it had no wikis. It did not really exist in the cyber infrastructure. And with through that program, we actually have very impressive statistics. And we have trained 30 editors, and we have over 140 articles in the Wikipedia. And it has been officially launched as part of the infrastructure of Wikipedia. And we are very, very proud of this association picking up a language that hitherto has not been anywhere near with a language model, now sitting with people that are actively contributing data in a variety of topics. And this data is mediated and moderated by Pan-South, so that this data is really found to be authentic, scientific, and really data that is usable. We do have an infrastructure project that came up as a result of a collaboration with all the 26 universities when we did a language resources audit in 2023. And developed a LumiLinks infrastructure that is actually trying to hone and bring and make findable all the resources that have been developed by the institutions and or data sets that are sitting in various multimedia forms to be actually in one of our resources. And the LumiLinks is home to most of the resources that you'll find. If you go in there, you will check what institution has contributed, what data that is findable and can be scaled and developed as part of the NLP and or machine learning development. We have deployed spelling checkers for all the 11 official languages, barring, again, South African Sign Language. And these are free, they're downloadable, and we can actually use them. And other HLT technologies, I have already mentioned, the OCR, text-to-speech technologies, tokenizers, and named recognition recognizers. We are actually worried about the infrastructure. There is paucity of data for African languages. As I'm speaking here, there is no one who is expertly interpreting into any of our languages, which means I'm not producing any data. If I'm producing any data, I'm producing poor English data because I'm not a native English speaker. So this data is not usable anywhere that I'm producing right here. But it could be an opportunity for us to actually produce lots and lots of data. If we were to actually really become a real multilingual society and use every opportunity to generate data sets and actually hone that data set and make it, process it and make it findable, so that again we can do a lot of exciting work in NLP, in machine learning, and in AI modeling. We need this findable data, but also we need capacity, which is why we are closely affiliated with NITheCS, because we need high technical capacity to train the speakers of these languages, or to train the teachers that are teaching these languages, so that when they're actually doing their work, they actually look at what they're producing as data. Because if you look at it as data, you think about it differently. And there are all sorts of data management strategies that we have actually tried to impact to the communities that we have visited. Currently, there are no synergies. And I'm very happy that Professor Deresh, the Vice-Chancellor here, actually spoke about demolishing some of these silos to really, truly work interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary, so that we can actually solve complex problems that are really affecting our country. There are so many people that can't access any information that is written in English, so many of them. If you were to attend to their problem, you would need to actually package your information differently. And we need to leverage on computation and artificial intelligence to actually solve some of these very basic problems. And if AI can solve basic problems, anything in between is already solved. We really need to dig down, to dive deep in these societies and try and solve these very complex problems that most of our societies are affected with. And the departments, I think, towards the theory of change, we really need to manage our national science a bit differently, so that DBE and DHET can work seamlessly, so that DST and NRF can work seamlessly, and of course, all the other divisions that are under DSTI and NRF, our NITheCS, DERISA, CHPC, SODLA, etc. The science infrastructure really needs to begin to work more seamlessly with each other, so that the little resources that we are favored with can actually impact the society. But to my friend, congratulations to you and your team. Thank you very much. I'm just all like that.
Thank you very much, Prof. Langa, for those words, but also reminding us that language provides this rich context within which a lot of work can be done. So I'm going to invite back our friends from Kayamandi, the Stellenbosch United Brothers. You see that they have changed outfits. So as they sing, I'm going to invite you to just stand up a bit, stretch your legs, because when you sit down, we are shifting gears. We're getting some people to look into their crystal balls and tell future from their perspective. So please, if you want to get up a bit and move, you're welcome to do so as we get ready for the final stretch of our program.
When the sun goes down, like heaven on the fringe, I sing this song now. When the sun is tea, take all the water to the mouth, so nice. With the sun of voice now, the bells of peace, I sing your people now. The sun's shining, still the light is started leaping like a sister now. Run, you'll travel alone. Run, you'll travel alone. Oh, thank you very much. Coming to this, you'll take from the we recently had a big conference.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Over to you. Greetings, everybody. We really appreciate that you invited us here. We are from Kayamandi. A group was formed in 2014 by this man called Mouton. So we really appreciate that we are here. We are still growing, and this is a journey we're still going far, I believe so. Thanks so much.
Sajika sadlala lengoma, sajika, sajika, sajika sadlala lengoma, 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 sajika sadlala lengoma. Sajika sadlala lengoma, 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 sajika Goma, sajika sadlala lengoma, sajika sadlala lengoma, sajika sadlala lengoma, sajika sadlala lengoma, sajika sadlala lengoma. Sajika sadlala lengoma, 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 sajika sadlala lengoma. Sajika sadlala, hey! Sajika sadlala lengoma, 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 sajika sadlala lengoma. Sajika sadlala lengoma, 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 sajika sadlala lengoma. Sajika sadlala lengoma, 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 sajika sadlala lengoma. Kushobani wami, ngati niyamba, ngatangala salotano ngulu, ngati nilele, namolo mtandayo. This is the hour to love God. Let us try to feel that we love God. Let us try to feel that we love God. Now when we think we love God, thinking with all our minds, we do not feel anything. We just say, I love God. I think this is the way we do, 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 way we do. Way we do, 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 way with you, 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 way with you.
Again, a very special word of thanks goes to the Stellenbosch brothers from Kayamandi, led by Sibo. Thank you for being here, guys, and thank you for adding another dimension to our morning. All right, so we're going to shift gears now. We've heard from in terms of the vision coming from the partners, but we're now going to step into a space where we get two leaders in the field to share a little bit with us in terms of what they think, what they see, and what they think the future holds. I have never met her. I suppose she's here. She's at Quantum Machine Learning, the team lead at Xanadu, and she's going to talk to us about what does fundamental research need to disrupt. Ladies and gentlemen, your hands and mine for the one, the only, Maria Schuld.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I'm very honored to kick off the scientific entertainment of this morning. And before I start, I want to have my own thanks to the creators of NITheCS, to Francesco, to the support team, to Renee, Mbali, Nelly. And I think I'm speaking on behalf of the people who actually benefit from NITheCS, so those for whom NITheCS is really a resource. And I've seen this live in action because I'm involved in a platform or conference called the Deep Learning NITheCS in South Africa, which is a gathering of machine learning researchers in South Africa, trying to shape how South Africa really interacts with AI. And this is student organized. I'm basically just a treasurer in the background, making sure we're tax compliant and everything. And those students have to handle like a really big budget. And we asked for help to NITheCS. And NITheCS became our funder, our people on the ground, our local organizers. So really seen that it's working, and that is really fantastic. So yeah, okay, let me get into what I want to talk about. I want to ask or share a couple of insights about the question, what fundamental research actually needs to disrupt. By disruption, I mean to innovate, to touch people's lives, to create scientific insights that somehow affect everyone. So let's think big here. Let's think of the steam engine. Let's think of the internet. Let's think of AI in the sense that for better or for worse, this has really changed people's lives. And this question has kept me busy in the last couple of years. So I've been, after my PhD at UKZN, I've been joining a company, a quantum startup. And in the last 8 years, the startup has been growing to like quite a large company. And my mandate or my job description in those years has basically been to make sure that quantum computers or these technologies that we're building are widely used in machine learning. So I'm part of the quantum applications team there. And it's very expensive to build a quantum computer. So the disruption we need here is not just a niche of researchers using this machinery, but really you go to a huge machine learning conference in 10 years' time and people are not talking about GPUs, they're talking about quantum technologies. That is, I know this is a large vision, but this is basically the idea that I was hired to think about. And the reason why I want to share a couple of the insights that I had on the way is that I realized, and actually by preparing this talk, I realized this even more, that they're the opposite of what you have to do to become a successful researcher. And I think this is thought-provoking, especially like when we think about how to shape an institution like NITheCS. Okay, let me start. My first point, and this is like one of the most important ones, is something I would call greatness cannot be planned, especially not by milestones. And to say what I mean by this, let us do a little thought experiment that I have been doing a lot in the last couple of years. If I want to disrupt AI, maybe a good point to start with is what could I have been doing while AI wasn't known to have the impact on people that it has nowadays, to actually set up a research lab that predicts this impact or kind of tries to like really. And most of you like know kind of about the history of what we have in modern AI by now. Most of you know that in the 90s, basic ingredients were all there. And if you look at this paper by Jan Lecker from 1989, you see that even the pictures used in there are very similar to the pictures we like see in modern machine learning papers. But the architectures proposed there were in the 90s just not working. You know, kernel methods were very popular, boosting methods, very interesting methods, really deeply rooted in theory. If everyone says AI has nothing to do with theory, it's just empirical research, is completely not true. Like beautiful methods were investigated then. And then in 2006, for the first time, an architecture like this, like a deep neural network architecture, has been made to train. And maybe around 2012, when there was really a phase shift in what these methods were able to do on the leaderboard, like in big competitions, especially in image recognition, I think one could have predicted what we're seeing now and what has, like in the famous Transformers papers, been really founded and, you know, what we would call modern AI. So the question here is, like, if we were in the 90s, maybe in the early 2000s, what should a person like me with this like really strange, far-reaching kind of mandate in a very small setup where we have very limited resources actually do to predict this? And the answer is nothing. I do not think that it could have been predicted at all. And I'll give you a couple of reasons. And one of the reasons is what people maybe summarize and you might have heard of as we don't understand why deep learning is working. And I just want to give you a little bit of the scientific background to what this statement actually means. So traditional learning theory saw machine learning as follows. If I have data, and if I look at this plot, so what I'm thinking of as the x-axis is a feature, so think of it as a pixel, and the scale is like how maybe dark the pixel is. And then on the y-axis, you've got a prediction, like how likely is it that there's a cat on this pixel. And in machine learning, what we want to know is, like, in the spaces where there's no data, what would my prediction be? And the problem is obviously, so it looks quite easy here, but in high dimensional spaces, we have very, very little information on the regions where there is no data, because those regions are really vast. And then I take usually a function space, like a model space, and say, okay, let's try to kind of like fit the data so that this function can now predict what's happening. You now take any function or a really huge model space. What you get is you have a lot of functions that fit your data perfectly well, so they agree with the data, but they have absolutely arbitrary predictions in the regions where there's no data. So this is called like a high variance classifier or predictor. And now traditional machine learning theory was all about trying to find ways to limit your model class, either by literally just starting with a very limited model class or by doing very nifty tricks, for example, is your optimization in a sense that you will only find models that are very smooth. You pay a price, you will not maybe fit your data really well, you won't like get the intricacy predict, but you have kind of a very like so a high bias but very low variance prediction because the models kind of agree in the regions where there's no data. And so here's the puzzle, maybe a little bit simplified, of deep learning. And we know, and this was a fact, we find all of these red solutions, these really bad solutions that fit the data well but are really bad predictors, and we do find them. But it turns out that if we use the training methods that people have worked out, we tend to find really good solutions. So those that are actually fitting the data but are actually quite smooth. So like I kind of like sketched this here as the green dots. And the question is, and people are still working on this, and there are a lot of beautiful theories about this. Again, machine learning is a field of a lot of theory. This is not true, it's just an empirical science, but at the moment, theory is lagging behind a bit. So the question is, why do we find these green solutions? So in short, I do not think that any sane researcher who really understands machine learning theory well could have anticipated what were the models that win, for example, has the impact on people. You don't believe me and you think, okay, maybe someone could. I want to give you another argument, and this is the hardware lottery. The concept of the hardware lottery is that actually not the models that are the best win, but the models that fit the hardware that can scale them or accelerate them. And I read a very interesting biography of NVIDIA recently, and if this biography, or going according to this biography, NVIDIA had no idea in the early 2000s themselves that machine learning would be the thing that accelerates. So I do not think the playing field was clear at all. So basically, to summarize, this created like a real headache for me, because as many scientists in their grant proposals, or like Francesco when he has to like ask for funding for NITheCS, I have to also convince investors, superiors, like what are we actually doing? I have to give them milestones for the next couple of years. But phrasing these milestones seem to be a farce because I have absolutely no way of telling you where I am in a year's time, which is the idea of innovative and fundamental research that is going into the unknown. So what do? I just start lying. That didn't sit well with me. So I fought a lot with my superiors about this fact. And then I found a book that I can very much recommend with the title Why Greatness Cannot Be Planned, The Myth of the Objective, that basically gives ammunition for exactly like resolving this conflict that I have and like basically validating it. And in a short, innovative research that's supposed to go where no one has been going before, you should not actually be knowing what you do in 6 months' time. And resonates with what Francesco said, that he's also, and NITheCS is not trying to tell people what to do, it's just giving the framework and stepping back and giving space to do the things you have to do. So I could be saying, okay, now, is it futile to actually have a team and plan for disruptive research? And I think this is not true at all. But while you do not know what you will encounter along the way in the next couple of years, I think that one can have an extremely strong compass if only one knows what I would call the North Star. So this is basically the mission statement, the very intrinsic idea that is not changing in what one wants to do. So one can have a personal human North Star, a team can have a North Star. It's usually like phrased as a mission statement. And maybe this is a bit different in working for industry than working for academia, that my daily life, like everything I do every 10 minutes of my day is derived from this North Star. Who I hire, to what places I go, what I write, what I think about, is all derived from this one statement. I'll share this statement with you. So basically my goal is what I said before already, that quantum computers are widely used for machine learning. And maybe here, maybe a bit of an interesting insight that I had along the way, because it took me a couple of years to actually phrase the goal like that. For a long time, I was actually following the goal of the community. If you ask quantum machine learning researchers what they're really doing, also in industry, they often will tell you, we want to find a useful quantum advantage for machine learning. I don't know, Microsoft, QML initiatives, this is probably also something that is often like phrased this way. And I started realizing by just phrasing the North Star slightly different, you walk into an entirely different direction. And to illustrate why this is the case, so what people usually think of in quantum advantage is basically to have proofs that somehow an algorithm running on a quantum computer scales in a favorable way with the size of the input. So if you compare to the scaling of classical algorithms. And then people usually slap the word useful in front of it because they try to kind of somehow justify that some industry will care about all this. I think that you can actually find a useful quantum advantage for ML, but never have quantum computers to be used for machine learning. And there are several reasons for this. One of the reasons is that you might find a useful quantum advantage for machine learning, but in 10 years' time, there's a heuristic that can run the same thing on a classical computer. So basically just scientists overtaking the status quo. It's also possible that you find a useful quantum advantage, but it just doesn't have the revenue that you need to build a quantum computer. The other way around, maybe we have quantum computers be used for machine learning, but actually there is even a proof that there is no quantum advantage. And think of the reason why you guys, or many of you younger folks, use Python. Python is not the best computational framework, it's slow, but you can think in Python. So there's very different reasons why an idea could be good or not. So this is so much about the North Star. Well, it's really, really important because that's all you have, basically. If you follow the North Star, you find that you will suddenly find things completely, well, different things interesting than everyone else in your community, which is sometimes a bit painful because you can get quite lonely. But you will realize that the trend is often not what you actually want to go with. If you also hear a little example from the field that I'm working in. So for many years, a concept called quantum neural networks was all the rage. So thousands of students all over the world were jumping on this, writing papers on this. The idea, what you see is just basically instructions for quantum computation. So every line is a qubit, and then the boxes say what you do with the qubit. And you see that all parameters in these instructions. And the idea here is that we use some parameters to fix with features. So basically we encode data into a quantum state, and then we train the rest of the parameters like a neural network. We know by now, and this was a big leap in research, how to get gradients out of these systems. So we can literally plug a quantum computer by now into TensorFlow or PyTorch into one of those frameworks. So everyone was researching this. And if you follow the idea of useful quantum advantage, this is like an interesting thing to do. if you want quantum computers to be used for machine learning, you have to do a back of the envelope calculation if actually under realistic assumptions, this is a good idea, this will actually happen. And if you want to read more about it, so one of my colleagues, Joseph Bowles, is very passionate about this topic. He has written this up in a recent paper, one of those back of the envelope calculations, where if you want to do MNIST handwritten digit recognition, which was this challenge from 1989, I just said, and you only want to train 10,000 parameters with a clock rate of a quantum computer of megahertz, which is kind of what we estimate at the moment that these machines will do, it takes 38 years for one epoch of training. So what I'm trying to say is, very likely quantum neural networks that everyone is researching at the moment won't be the thing that will replace deep learning. In an interesting twist, maybe just to add this, in the recent years, now everyone is shunning quantum neural networks. Everyone's saying they're not working. Students are saying, I don't want to do quantum machine learning research because this is all not working, and so on and so forth. What happened here, and I just find this interesting, so I wanted to share it. You know that our mathematical tools often can tell us about huge things or small things, like very concrete things or very generic things. And people have started to use a lot of mathematical tools to look at the class of all quantum models, and I've started to realize that most of them are not good. They're either untrainable or you don't need quantum hardware because you can classically simulate them. And now everyone says, okay, this is not a good idea. But if you remember from before, this is the fallacy of classical machine learning research, where we said, oh, all the model class of deep learning methods are not really interesting. And all of a sudden we realized, okay, just doing the right things finds those green spots. So basically we're now really thinking this is an interesting approach, but maybe not the final one. So where are actually the amazing quantum models in this approach? So this goes to illustrate that sometimes what everyone does is really not what you should do, but to know what you should do, you need this North Star. Okay, I've got two more, just to also not keep you for too long. Another one is that you're actually starting to mistrust scientific evidence quite quickly. And this was a shock for me. So I've been training these quantum neural networks for many, many years, and I never found that they work well. But everyone in the literature always wrote papers that say, oh, this is working really well. So we thought, okay, let's do scientific database decision-making, and let's spend an entire year just benchmarking these things and seeing if we're right or not. If you do a literature review, you can actually show so this is like an archive search on outperform on quantum machine learning, and you find a lot of papers that do these benchmarks, that the majority of them says, okay, we're either better than a classical model or we're even better than some other quantum models. And out of the 3 out of 73 papers that says our quantum models are worse than classical, 2 of them then went to great lengths of explaining why this is just in their study and their study is probably wrong or something. It was really quite an exercise. And so we kind of set up what we thought were fair benchmarks and found, tested in lots of different situations and found basically that the models coming out on top in these 3 categories I'm showing were all the classical models were benchmarked against. And then I started digging in classical machine learning literature because not everyone's interested in quantum ideas, quantum craziness. And even there's a growing amount of literature that tests benchmarks that we take for granted and finds that they crumble very, very quickly. If you just change things you just correct some errors in the data set. So yeah, so this is was a bit of a wake-up call for me. I don't want to keep you, so I won't jump over this one here, but just to say, if you want to innovate, it's sometimes interesting to see where the gaps of what people are interested in. If you want to talk about this, you can catch me later. And this one is a point I really, really want to make here. I think that this is the biggest insight I had over the couple of years, and I'll tell you why you should avoid writing papers. So if I write a paper, honestly, not just something where my name's on, I need at least 3 months to understand the problem. If the problem is in my field, if it's in another field, I need a year. I need at least 4 months to code up the numerics, to find a solution. Then I have a bug in my program. You know how it goes, to actually find also papers that have methods, compare them, and so forth. Let's be honest, you need at least 2 months to write up if you want to correct the appendix, if you want your figures to look nice. And then it's something that I haven't done for many, many years because I'm actually not publishing in journals anymore, which was the biggest liberation of my life. People have to fight with reviewers. I know this is down the line, but this is a cost, right, in your schedule. So if I, as actually, not a PhD researcher anymore, but actually someone who has a little bit of experience in research, has to write a paper, it takes me 1 year to write a paper where I cannot take any risk, because if any of my ideas fails, I have to go back and understand the problem in you, and then this 1 year or one year range is not working. That means if you write one paper a year meaningfully, you can only do research that is completely risk avoiding. And just to say that I'm really not joking here, it took me a lot of courage to produce the statistics you're looking at, and I had to bias it a little bit because there were some political science papers I had to take out that were screwing it up. A couple of years ago, I took the decision to not write papers anymore unless I really need to. And I'm proud to say that, for example, this year, it looks like I will have, my name is only on one paper that is in quantum machine learning. And it's absolutely liberating. And I know not everyone can afford this, but I want to put this out there because this is not a given, you know, that we need to operate like that. So I'm wrapping up. What does fundamental research need to disrupt? Okay, if people like Francesco goes to the Department of Science Education, or I go to my boss, or you go to your supervisor, and you tell them, okay, I cannot give you any milestones. I don't know what I'm doing next year. You say, I'm not doing what anyone else is doing. You say, I don't really believe that what everyone says is actually true. Then you say, like, actually, the stuff I'm working on has absolutely no citations yet. And then you say, I'm not giving you papers anyways. But I've got a really, really, really strong North Star. Okay, I'm asking you, what do you need when you're in that situation? Well, the one thing you need is trust. And so this is what I hope that NITheCS gets from like the scientific system around it. It's just the trust to actually prove its value without the pressure to produce things only to look productive. Yeah, that's it for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, Maria. I can well imagine that during lunchtime, you will not be able to have a single bite because people will be queuing to chat to you. A lot of things to think about. I mean, greatness cannot be planned. Just realize as you were talking, if you follow the exit, if you follow people, you're going to get to the exit. Yeah, you follow people, you will get to the exit. But maybe the exit is not where you need to be. So some good stuff for us to think about, challenging stuff in terms of what needs to happen in order for us to disrupt. And also, I think, just standing here thinking about this whole notion of innovation and impact. Everybody's talking about impact, impact, impact. But what does that do for the art, the mastery that comes with this thing that we call science? So thank you for your inputs. We're going to move to our next invited speaker. His initials, MT. But apparently he's not MT because he is the guru of quantum at Microsoft. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce to you the technical fellow and corporate vice president of quantum at Microsoft, talking to us a little bit about accelerating scientific discovery with quantum, HPC, and AI. I've got no idea what I just said, but I'm sure you will unpack that for us. He was born, he grew up, he flew in. He's known as Matthias Teuer. Thank you.
I just have to change to my slides, but while I do that, I say I fully agree with writing far fewer papers. Since I moved to Microsoft, I'm writing 10 times fewer papers a year. I went from 30 to 3, but the citations are going up and the impact of the papers are going up. It's important to when one writes a paper, you write those papers that have impact. And that's the luxury Maria and I have at companies. It would be great to have that same where to focus on the vision, the North Star, and the impact, and then things come. We have slides. Thank you. Yes, and I want to talk about how we can do discovery fast, accelerating discovery, because we have so many problems that we face on the planet, in Africa, here, and we need science to help with them. And so being able to innovate faster, being able to have more people help us to innovate, that's the breakthrough we want. And so NITheCS is about about science discovery, computational science. And okay, let's see how I can click here. I have the same problem. So when I started in science, my start was in theoretical and computational science. My master's, this topic, there was one thesis topic I could choose, where they told me, if you do that, you have to use a Cray supercomputer. I said, yeah, that's the topic I want, no matter what it is. And then with that, I did my thesis at a place that was interdisciplinary, like NITheCS. There were people from chemistry, mathematics, climate science together, and we used the Cray and just being able to talk to people using the same tools, the domains helped a lot with my career. And then with that, I later met a girl and flew down to Stellenbosch to visit her friends. And the next day went to Cape Town. We bought a diamond, we got engaged. That's my link to here. 31 years ago, I got engaged in town and I've often been back. But the world has changed. At that time, computational science was driven by the supercomputers. And that one on the screen up here has 1% of the power of my smartwatch now. But it was great back then, and it's all about finding out what can we do on great science problems with new algorithms on the best machines we have. That principle hasn't changed. But what has changed is how we do it. These days, we do it not just with the HPC, we do it with that and with AI and with quantum computing. So when I told my team back in 2019, hey guys, when we build this quantum computer, we have to think about it in a future where science will be dominated by AI. And my team told me, no, that will not happen. AI will never be able to help us with science. And no, it's coming, because we already had the first papers showing how the ML models can help us with the quantum problem. It said, look, in 10 years from now, science will be dominated by AI, and that and quantum combined, that will change how we innovate. Then, last year, in spring, the committee asked me to come by for a visit a day and talk with them about the impact of machine learning in physics and chemistry. So I thought, yeah, so there's starting to see there's something there. But what I didn't expect that just a few months later, they announced 2 prizes in that field. So it shows kind of just how this really takes off. And so let me show you now kind of how the AI is changing science. An example, let me show you how quantum computing comes in and how this all combined will change the way we do science. So in the past, we did simulation, we took a molecule, we simulated it. What we now do is with all the simulation data we get, we don't just use it one-off for the simulation, but we use it to train a model, so that model can then stand in for the simulation and predict what the simulation would give us, so that we reuse all the data we got over the last decades from simulations, and train a model that can predict it, and that within seconds can give you the results that a big supercomputer would take days to produce. Now let me show you what that can do, because my team's plan was at first, let's train a model, and Maria, what did I want to do? Write a paper. So what did my boss say? No, we don't write papers. We actually want to have an impact. And then they said, okay, so what should we do? Yeah, so you have a model for materials, so create a new material. Wait. Creating new materials, that's hard. So, but then one person on the team sat down with AI and said, okay, let me find a new material, let me find a new electrolyte for the solid-state battery. And it took him 1 week. And 1 week later, he had screened 32 million potential materials. To put that into perspective, mankind from the Stone Age to now has discovered about 250,000 crystalline materials. It is more than 100 times more than are known to mankind. How he did it is he looked at all possible known crystal structures and started substituting atoms. There's an iron atom here, let's put it out, put in a nickel atom, a gold atom, whatever. Just substituting atom to find 32 million potential materials that contained lithium. Then he used AI to screen which ones of those are stable, and he found there are about 600,000 stable materials, 2 times more than are known to mankind. Then he filtered it in a battery. You don't want it to short circuit, so there has to be a big band gap. So he filtered by band gap. And then it has to be stable when you attach the electrodes. That brought it down to about 771 potential materials, all in the first day. And then what he did is he simulated those materials with HPC to find out about 583 of those really worked. The ones that fell out didn't fall out because the AI was off totally, but because the band gap was maybe only just 2.8 volts instead of 3.1 volts. So then we had 583 promising materials. And next we looked at the lithium transport through it. How fast can you charge the battery? How fast can it be discharged? Now, lithium is very light, is quantum. So if you want to simulate that accurately on HPC, you would now spend the next couple of years simulating it. Instead, he replaced all of the force calculation again by AI and did that in the next couple of days to come up with 147 new electrolytes for a battery. And we looked at the list, and the first thing we saw that all the best ones known are in there. So that was promising if the good ones are in there, but more than 100 new ones that nobody tried. Then, what did my team want to do? Maria, write a paper. Our boss said, no, let's not write the paper. Here, we could get the paper in Nature, but we actually want to have impact. So he said, let's make a battery. I said, no, wait. We are just theoretical and computational people. We don't make batteries. We write papers. And then he said, no, let's actually make the material first. So what did we do? We went to a lab that works on some battery materials and asked them, we have this list here, and then we looked through and boiled it down to 18, where we saw a way to actually make it, and that were cheap. And found one that contains 70% less lithium, so it's cheaper than standard ones. But then we went to that lab, and they at first said, every week somebody comes to us and says, this is a great material, but it never works. And now you come from Microsoft, and you claim that AI has found something that works. And they looked at it and said, look, this contains sodium and lithium. That can never be stable. That will always phase separate into the sodium compound and the lithium one. But we told them, no, look, we checked it with AI, and it's stable. They were not convinced, but they made it. And then once they made it, they said, yeah, the properties are right. And then we asked them, now, can you make a battery? They said, no. Batteries, that takes testing of 2 years. Can't you just try it? they tried to put an anode, a cathode, squeeze it together in the coin cell, and it worked. So in 6 months, we got from having the idea to having a working battery prototype. And then that lab said, the amazing thing there is that you found a candidate that works so quickly. It takes them 4 to 5 years to find a working candidate. If we can accelerate that with AI, so that the first things we try out have the probability of your success, then that will change the way we innovate. So that showed us we're on the right way here. And then we had a customer who worked on coolant, but most of the coolants in data centers, elsewhere, they are toxic for the environment. They cause global warming. They are so-called PFAS, forever chemicals, and so we can't use them. And then we said, hey, can't we do another one? And they said, look, the problem is we only have experience with those types of molecules. Nobody knows the chemistry of others. So what did we do then? And say, hey, let's just use AI, generative AI, and not type in, write an essay or draw a picture, but ask it, can you create me some new coolant molecules with properties similar to that, but with less fluor atoms in it? And we did that. It took us about 10 days of compute. And then it took us about 4 months to make it. And then we put it into a tank. We put in a PC without a fan. And we started to play a game on it. And you see bubbles coming up as it cools it, but this coolant actually worked. I couldn't take it with me because that's a new compound not known, and I can't ship it across the board because there are no data sheets and nothing, because who knows, it might blow up, but no, it works. So these are the things that we can do to just imagine kind of how it will change the world if we can really make new materials with properties in weeks and months instead of years. So that's one way how AI will change science. But we need more than just AI, because all these models are trained on what we have calculated on classical computers. And we know simulating quantum systems, chemicals, materials, we can only with methods like the density functional theory. So then these models have all been trained on that. So these models are great, they work, but they can never be better than the data we've trained them on. And the classical methods we have to simulate it, they aren't accurate. They're like if I take off my glasses and it's all blurred. To look more accurately, to look and have the clear vision, to know the exact properties of the molecules, materials, that's where we need quantum to come in. With quantum computing, we can start to see clearly. Why is that important? Let's look at the chemical reaction. I've the molecule, the ethylene. I want to know how does it react with ozones. It's very important questions when they make something new. You know, how will it react with water, with oxygen, the environment, with ozone? And so when one looks at that, then there are many different paths the reaction can take. But in order to know which path I'm going, you need to know which reaction is faster. And for that, I need to know the energy barriers during a reaction. To go from one state to another, I have to climb over a barrier mountain pass. the higher the path is, the slower the reaction. So to find out which path it takes, I need to know the barrier height accurately. And with classical methods, the uncertainty is too high. It's much higher than room temperature. So you need to get the accuracy right for the barriers. I need the accurate energies so that I can predict how things react. And when I do that, then often classical methods are not good enough. So when I want to look at now, here's something that we called the Jacob's ladder of computational chemistry, kind of going from low accuracy methods to a high accuracy one. If what I want is the geometry, a crystal structure, protein folding structure, then it's enough if I use a classical method, classical simulation, the scaling is linear, I can do millions of atoms, it goes fast. If I want to know a bit more, if I want to know the properties within a molecule, the electronic behavior, then I need to look at the density functional theory. I get the polarizations, the electron densities. I get the quantum properties. That is harder. The scaling becomes cubic. I need the big computer. The calculation might take hours. If I want to know how chemical reactions happen, how bonds break when I pull them apart, then the electron correlations become important. And that's when the calculations become harder even. The scaling becomes the number of atoms to the 7th power, which is hard, or exponential ultimately. So the more accurate I want to calculate something, the harder it gets, with ultimately exponential scaling. And that's where quantum computers come in. Because in quantum computers, being quantum, I can do it efficiently. And so I can bend that curve. I can get to the high accuracy calculations fast and cheap and better than classically. And I will be able to do calculations accurately for chemistry, the material science, that I could never do classically. So how does AI change things? What I've shown before is with AI, I can take all the classical calculations, I can train models based on it, and that brings the cost down, the time down. I can do things 10,000 times faster with the AI models that I've trained on the classical data. Now, quantum computing will not make it faster. Quantum computers will make things more accurate, but still slow. It might still take days to do a calculation until you realize you can combine the two. You can actually use that quantum data to train AI models. And so the way I combine machine learning and quantum is I'm using the quantum computer to teach quantum science to an AI. So I'm teaching all the accurate quantum properties to a classical AI. And that way you then get models that are as fast as the models we have now and as accurate as quantum computers. So I'm taking the model I've trained before and that I've used for the battery and the coolant, and I want to make it more accurate and more useful. By using a quantum computer, I'm simulating those molecules and materials that are wrong on the classical computer. I'm simulating those accurately on the quantum computer, getting extra training data with which I refine the model. And then I'm getting more accurate models, quantum refined models that I can then use. Can we do that? For that, here I want to show a model that I've trained for chemical reactions. And let's look first at the blue data points that show the training error of the model. Where I look at the barrier height in the chemical reaction, and you need to look at the red line on the left. the chemical the accuracy line. Whenever things are to the right of that, then the error is much larger than room temperature, then the result is meaningless. In this case, trained with DFT, there are many cases where the error is too bad. Now the question is, when in the future I get quantum computers, can the models be trained better? To demonstrate that, okay, I don't have the large quantum computer yet, but what they could do is they could go up one step on the ladder and do very expensive, accurate coupled cluster calculations. When I then refine the model with just this of points from that, then I get to the yellow point. Now, most data points are accurate. So it shows me I'm limited not by the models. The models can learn things accurately. I'm limited by the training data. And so having accurate training data from quantum computers will make a huge difference, because then I will be able to make computational chemistry, material science predictive. What that will change is that instead of using computers like now in chemistry, and what I've seen in many companies, to Maria's point, computational chemists at companies, what do they do these days? They do not create new chemicals and materials, but they write papers. Everyone talks to them, and then we start a project with some companies, and we have a breakthrough, and then they say, yeah, okay, that's all nice and good, but we are the researchers who write papers. We have no connection to the business teams. So we need to change the way computing is used in industry. We need to make sure that we don't just write papers in academia here, great papers, nice papers that explain why things work or that explain why things don't work. That's one more thing about papers. Many papers are written explaining why things don't work instead of making things work. So we really need to change the way how computing, theoretical science, computational science, I think we have that in the NITheCS name, how that can have an impact on industry here in Africa and elsewhere. And one way to make that happen is making it more accurate. And so that's where quantum computing combined with AI can help us make it fast and accurate, so that, for example, when I need the new chemical, I can just try it and screen it like we've done for the battery, and I can be confident that what is proposed actually will work. That I can then just take it to the lab, make it, and check it. But then we found the materials and chemicals often within a week. But it took us often 3 to 6 months to actually make it. So the next thing is we can use it to find an efficient way to synthesize it that will not only get the material, will also get the recipe how to make it. And then typically when we make it, something like now, it takes years to turn it into a product, because we first have to test how stable is it, how will it react with the environment. If I can use computing and AI trained by quantum here again to predict how it reacts with the environment, that can really speed up the screening here. So get there, what we need is a combination of AI, of quantum computing, and of HPC. We have the AI, we have the HPC, but where are we with quantum? With quantum, the problem is today's quantum computers are noisy. They're like spinning tops that you spin and you want 1,000 qubits, you want 1,000 tops that you want to spin and you will want to keep them spinning, and they fall over all the time. And then you want to scale it to 10,000, 100,000, you just need to keep them spinning. And that's hard. So we have to get beyond that. And where we have to get to is we ultimately have to get from level 1, the physical qubits, the noisy ones, to level 3 at scale when we have thousands of logical qubits, reliable, that stay alive for days. So we think of that as the 3 phases. Level 1, that's where we are. Level 2, we want resilient qubits that live longer than the physical ones, and level 3 will be scale. I want to talk a bit now on level 2 resilient qubits, logical qubits. What I do there is, like in classical communications or computers, when there are errors, I want to use redundancy to correct the errors. So I'm taking many noisy qubits and turn them into one resilient logical qubit. That's better than the physical one. And they want to keep the data around. They also want to be able to compute on it. They want to compute more accurately than with a noisy qubit. And a year and a half ago, when I started, there was nobody who had demonstrated a real true logical qubit yet. But then last year, our team worked with the Quantinuum hardware and found the error correcting code that could correct the error so that the resulting logical qubits, they got 4 of them, were better than the noisy physical ones by factor 800. So it was a breakthrough the first time we had a true logical qubit on which you could compute. Then 5 months later, we bumped it up to 12 logical qubits, and then with the atom computing to 24 logical qubits. And now we're selling machines with 50 logical qubits. And then we'll go on to 100 logical qubits and then scale up to 1,000 and more. I want to show one example where we've combined the HPC and logical qubits and AI. A simple example, something I can do on a classical computer because we had only 4 qubits and that's easy. But we said, let's take a chemical property. Let us calculate the solution of a molecule on a classical computer. Let us load that quantum state into a quantum computer. And let us measure the properties, let us measure the energy of the molecule with AI. And the answer we got was that the answer should be the line I've shown here, the true ground state energy. When I do it with the noisy physical qubits, it's too high and that side of the error bars. With the logical qubits, that's much better. So we see the advantages we have by moving to the next stage, the logical qubits. Then finally, what we have to do is we have to scale up. For that, we announced our topological qubits that we think will help us scale much faster. And I want to just end that there's one more thing. In addition to using AI models to predict properties, HPC to validate it, quantum to train it accurately, we can use AI for reasoning. We can do the full reasoning loop in science, hypothesis, experiments, interpreting it, learning from it, creating knowledge, refining the hypothesis. These are all things with which the latest AI language models, we can start to teach that. And we've started building products and showing how we can actually do scientific reasoning loops with AI. Well, one thing that we've done, for example, is in April, I told my team, I think AI is good enough that it can do quantum programming. So can't we show that you can just talk to your AI chatbot, Copilot, and tell it to write a quantum program? Can we do what people call quantum vibe coding? And doesn't work yet. Try it. They called me in the evening. We have a recording, it works. So you can actually tell the AI model to write a quantum program. Then he can, instead of having to learn how to use the quantum computer, I want to just type in, run this program on a quantum computer. And 2 days later, we had it working. You can now just type in, run this program on a quantum computer. We tell you you don't have an account, so then it helps you sign up. And then it tells you which one, have these five choices. Then you choose one, then it tells you, but that will cost money. Then you ask, okay, which one is cheaper? Then it tells you there's a free version here. Then you go there, and then you run it there. And then you run it, and then it runs through, and then you ask it to show you the results. Okay, we have that. Good. 2 months later, we tried it again. And because the language model in the backend had changed, surprised me that it actually got the results back, and it did not just show the results. It gave me a summary of what the results mean and why that's expected from this algorithm, and basically explained the entire experiment to me. So those are the things that just come up when you combine it with the tools, the combination of quantum and AI. And when we then showed that to the organizers at the hackathon in Abu Dhabi, they told me, wait, Matthias, how can we stop our students from using that? And my reply was, no, you should not stop them, but you should empower them to do that, because that means your students will now learn much more. They will learn using AI for science, and they will be able to do much more with quantum by that. So that's the near future that we have to embracing, how our students can actually achieve much more in science by using AI and quantum together. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Again, another person who's not going to have lunch.
I also just want to acknowledge all our online viewers, and for those of you who are still in Stellenbosch later on around 5 o'clock, Professor Matthias will also be giving a public lecture in the NITheCS here at Stellenbosch University in the cinema, and he will be talking on quantum future of computing, and if you're online, of course, in that. So thank you for that fascinating journey, giving us, in a sense, this challenge that we need to rethink, and we need to figure out how to use the technology as an enabler. And as you were talking, because I don't know all the stuff that you're talking about, I was reminded of this movie, Gran Turismo. Gran Turismo tells the story of a kid who learned how to drive playing video games. Might not be this, but it's something similar. And then there's another caution that comes in that says, only a trained sorcerer should invoke dangerous spells. So we need to make sure that we keep the skill, the mastery, otherwise things can go pear-shaped. So this is more or less the end of our program, and I now need to invite the Deputy Vice-Chancellor, Research, Innovation and Postgrad Studies at Stellenbosch University, Professor Sibusiso Moyo, to do the closing remarks and then the vote of thanks. So please keep in mind that she's standing between you and lunch.
Thank you so much, our program director. Good afternoon, everyone. And goeiemiddag. So it gives me great cause to give the board on the launch of the National Institute for Theoretical and Computational Sciences here at Stellenbosch University. And it's also, of course, aligned the year. This year we know, as was mentioned earlier, that is the UNESCO year of the quantum science and technology. So it's really good timing, I think, in terms of the launch. So first of all, I want to thank, of course, Mr. Imraan Patel, the Deputy Director General of the Department of Science and Technology, who's not here with us, but we thank him, of course, in his absence for his leadership and for situating NITheCS so clearly within the South African national science, technology, and innovation agenda. He talked about a number of things around transformation, inclusion, and of course, partnerships, which our rector also did talk about. And I think this idea of, pan-disciplinary, which NITheCS also aspires to do within the sector and within the continent as well. I think the last two speakers have made the job of the DVC's research very difficult because they spoke about not publishing and so forth. So I'm looking forward to the lunch discussions around that, but that was very interesting to hear. I also want to acknowledge at this point, of course, the Vice-Chancellor and Rector, Professor Deresh, his support and commitment to strengthening his role as a hub of research excellence, innovation, and postgraduate studies, but also re-emphasizing the need to I also want to acknowledge Professor Zebulon Vilakazi, the Vice-Chancellor for Wits University, who's also a physicist and very supportive of the mathematical sciences. And I know that last week, the London Mathematical Society, through Wits, which is also trying to really support the sector in terms of capacity building and encouraging collaboration as well. Professor George Ellis, where's Professor George Ellis? I saw him at some point. Thank you so much. I think you've been around. And then from the Chinese consulate, thank you so much for joining us. We thank you also for your support. And then from the Italian Embassy, Giulio Mignato, who's also here. Thanks so much for joining. And then, of course, our speaker who spoke now, Professor Matthias. I think very interesting, mind-blowing, and we look forward to the session also later. But I think from what you've said, it shows that if we can optimize, I think the is that we can do through AI and computational science as well. We can also minimize the research funding needed to do experiments, which are very expensive. So I think our chemists might want to talk to you also live, and I think that was very interesting. But Professor Langa Kumalo, the Chief Director from SADILA, thank you so much, I think, for really highlighting the role that we look at there and to what's happening around with this as well. I was very glad that you pointed out to me, which is missing on which you are now doing well in, because I think that's also critical for us to have those languages which might not appear having digital presence. Dr. Hafiz Victoria, the Center Manager, NITheCS, I know was represented as well. He was not here, but we thank also the representation from the center. There's a number of people we work with from the National Research Foundation. I just want to acknowledge you. And then, of course, our program director, Dr. Gillian Arendse, who's also really supportive of our programs, and we've done an amazing job today. I think we should give him a hand for this. Matthias, and also the new acronym for NITheCS. So we also did quite gratitude, of course. Our music, our brothers, people as a team, we want to thank them in the music. We were worried at the beginning that you might not so nice to see at least with our movement. I know our stage is small, but next time we'll get a bigger stage for you as well. But thank you much. I think we just of course, gratitude to Professor Francesco Petruccione, the Director for the National Institute for Theoretical and Computational Sciences, for his vision, energy in building this national platform. And of course, to the node heads, the heads of the nodes, can you just raise your hand? I saw some heads, but I don't want to miss anyone. In each of the universities, we've got the heads of the nodes. Yes. You can raise your hand so people see you. But you have a big task as well, because I don't see not just located at one institution. It's all the institutions, but the role that we have to play in the sector is important around capacity building and making sure that we have the next generation of leaders who can help us in this area as well. So having said that, I just want to say that I think Francesco did do a good outline of the areas that we focus on, so I'll not go into that. But the alignment, again, with the South African Decadal Plan and the National Development Plan and the White Paper for Science, Technology, Innovation was also mentioned, I think, which is important for us to remember. But this idea of collaboration is key, and the idea of thinking of how we can work with our communities. And it was great to see that in this function today, at least we have at least some of our community members. And for me, it was good to see that we have we did acknowledge in our welcome, of course, at least the chief and the princess from Venda who are here with us, who are really trying to make sure that they're at the cutting edge of science. And in chatting with them, they also mentioned that they've already started an online school. And this is of the top students that you have selected from the region. And so we are really looking forward to what we can do together as universities as well, working with you. So we really want to acknowledge you and other community members who are present as well. And then I think having said that, so let me close with this quotation, which says that if you want to go fast, go on, but if you want to go far, go together. And I think within the context of collaboration and the theme of what we've been doing today, that's important for us to remember. So in closing, I want to again congratulate the NITheCS team, and I know Rene and the people who've been organizing from the Stellenbosch side. We've got Keiko and the team, the student staff who have been involved in planning this session. I want to thank you. The DSTI, the NRF, the funders, the partners who were also mentioned within Professor Francesco's speech, to also acknowledge them. The institutional partners from all the 26 public universities, the DBC's research who are really supportive, also help us in this area, and the directors for research and innovation, the planning teams, and the consortium, of course, of universities who have contributed to making NITheCS a success. And I think I needed AI there, a success. I want to thank you for your contribution and making this milestone possible. So we look forward with excitement to the journey ahead. Nkosi, thank you, and Danki. And I think the program director will tell us about the next steps. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Yeah, thank you. I get something too.
Yes, thank you very much, Prof. Moyo. You've been thanked. Thank you for being here. I think that brings to an end the formalities linked to the launch of NITheCS. With networking, inclusivity, and transformation at the heart, it enables communities to contribute and to solve problems. Thank you for being here. We invite you now to enjoy a scrumptious lunch. And then at some point, we will invite those who are involved in the official ribbon cutting to join us as we take a short walk to the offices of NITheCS to formally open the space. Thanks again for being here, and to all those online, thank you for your participation. And if you are available, 5 o'clock, public lecture by Professor Matthias in the cinema, the Nielsen. Thanks again for being here, and enjoy the lunch.